That was some great music. I hope you agree. Good morning, everyone. I know it's still a little early for Bangalore, but we are here. We have a good crowd. We are ready to go. I'm really excited about today. I hope you are too. This is the third edition of Talquest. The first edition is where we launched then the industry's first AI interviewing platform, Talview Behavioral Insights, which is one of our flagship product today. The last edition, which was the second edition, we had a very interesting discussion and presentations about leveraging AI in recruitment. And I think a lot of those things which we discussed last year has become true. Many of you are using it either from Talview or from some of the other vendors available in the market. But today, it's all about Instahiring. I know there are a lot of questions in your mind about what is Instahiring, why Instahiring. We have an exciting agenda put together here where we will discuss each of this. We have master classes where experts are going to talk about each and every component of Instahiring. We have panels, we have industry thought leaders who are going to share their insights and experience of transforming talent acquisition process over the last few years. So we have some very exciting sessions coming up. We have more than 500 plus registrations. We are expecting at least 200 people to walk in today, subject to Bangalore traffic obviously, but from across more than 300 plus organizations and 25 plus cities across the globe represented in the audience today. Very exciting lineup of speakers. One of the sessions which I am personally looking forward to is that of Major DP Singh. He's a person who has used speed to do some very interesting feats. He's a Limca World Book record holder, so we'll listen to him. We have Karen, who is joining us from San Francisco this morning today to share her perspective on global state of recruitment technology. And we have a very exciting lineup of other speakers as well. And before probably I get into my main presentation, one shout out to Microsoft, our key partner and also the sponsor of the event today. Our journey with Microsoft started almost 3 years back, where we were part of the Microsoft Ventures program in 2016. And last year we did a global roadshow with Microsoft, which also became pivotal to Talview's global expansion. And 2018 we were one of the top 5 ISV partners for Microsoft. So this is a great partnership and we continue to leverage on that. So recruitment, as you all know, recruitment technology, it's a massive crowded space, and you know this better than me because most of you probably are getting hundreds of emails in your inbox almost every week, if not every day, from recruitment technology vendors. But there is something which is setting us apart, and we feel so because we grew 3 times in revenue last year. So we are doing something right. Not just that, Bursin by Deloitte, which is considered as one of the most influential HR tech consulting vendor, they have showcased Talview's AI as most advanced compared to other solutions available in this market today. We did one of the largest deployment for digital hiring solution for a global organization last year. We were also the only Indian product company to be a winner of the Microsoft AI for All award last year. So my job at Talview is obviously as a CEO is to understand what the market needs and also why something is working and why something is not working. And that was something which is really working for us last year. And when I spoke to a lot of my customers, a lot of senior leaders across these organizations, one thing which was a constant theme across all the customers was they don't see us as just another applicant rank system or an assessment platform. And that was a constant theme. And the second thing which they all mentioned is we are able to solve one of the very critical problems for them, which is long time to hire. We are able to help them to bring down their time to hire. So conventional wisdom says that more time you spend, you have better quality of candidates, and quality of hire is probably the most important hiring metric for most of the organizations. So why then people say that, okay, we want to reduce time to hire? So it was kind of counterintuitive. But when we drilled down and we had a lot of conversations, we found that humans have a natural tendency, if anything is a risky proposition, if typically people fear that, okay, if a bad hire is going to be a huge cost in terms of it sets you back, it also increases your cost. So if you need to avoid that, the only way you can deal with that fear is by putting in more effort and spending more time. But statistics doesn't say that that is really true. So for example, if you look at the best candidates, they are available in the market only for 10 days. So if you have a hiring process which is like 2 months long, how are you going to ever recruit the best candidate available there? So your quality of hire is not actually linked to how much time you spend. It's actually inversely proportional to that. You talk about candidate experience, more than 57% of candidates who drop off during the hiring process, they say that they drop off because the hiring process was too long and they didn't have the patience to be part of that process. So your candidate experience, which is another key hiring metric, even that is not being positively influenced by more time you're spending. And it costs today on an average, this is a global stat, around $4,000 per hire, and that's directly proportional to the time you spend. So the more time you're spending, the more resources are getting engaged and your cost of hire is increasing. So none of the key hiring metrics are in fact being positively influenced by longer time. So that means that, So that means that time to hire is probably the most critical element when it comes to hiring, or the most critical metric. And your hiring managers always need talent like yesterday because they don't do a good job of predicting their needs. So that adds to the entire mix. While this is the situation today, the way we work is also changing, and everybody in the room knows about gig economy and what's happening, and it's really catching up in the West, and I think very soon it will also become a reality in India. So statistics say that by 2020, 43% of the white collar workforce will be part of the gig economy, and there are multiple reasons for this. We don't want to spend a lot of time on that, but this is a well accepted fact today for most of the enterprises. And more importantly, almost 52% of the private workforce at some point of time has spent as an independent worker in 2018. So essentially, gig economy is already here. And if you're going to hire somebody for 6 months or 9 months, you don't want to actually spend 2 months in hiring that person. So that's not going to work for you. So the present situation is already forcing you to increase your speed of hire. And now the future is becoming even more difficult. So you're going to struggle even more if you don't have a fast hiring process. But the trends are showing a different direction. So time to hire has actually increased in spite of all the technology, all the automation which is happening with applicant rank systems have been around for quite some time. But they have not been able to actually help employers to bring down time to hire. And if you look at enterprises, and most of you in the audience are coming from enterprises with companies with more than 2,000 employees, the average time to hire is around 64 days. So this is not going to help you sustain your competitive advantage by hiring the right people if you are not going to address this problem. But meanwhile, everything else around us is changing. Everything else is available at the tap of a finger. You have your mobility, you have your retail, you have your grocery, everything being delivered to you in an instant. So why shouldn't we have the same experience in talent or in hiring also? And that's why we believe Insta hiring is very critical. And Insta hiring, the Insta hiring experience, we believe will be the fastest way to hire. So there are 3 pillars of Insta hiring. The first one is remote. So one of the biggest bottleneck in faster hiring is the schedule or logistic constraints which you have when you're trying to process a candidate across different stages. So by taking the entire process online and making it remote, you can actually eliminate that constraint. It also allows you to collect a lot of data, and I'll talk more about why data and collecting information is important later. But this is one of the first pillars of Insta hiring. The second one is automation. So even today, a lot of routine tasks from scheduling interviews to follow-ups to screening of a resume, all of that is still manually done by a human being, by a recruiter. And this has 2 challenges. One, obviously, a human can only do tasks serially. So you can look at one resume and then go to the next resume. You can speak to one candidate and go to the next candidate. But if you're able to leverage technologies, and there are a bunch of technologies out there from bots to natural language processing and all of that, which can actually automate things which doesn't require a human to be involved and can actually make the entire process parallel and significantly scale this. So we'll talk about automation as the day goes by. And the last one, which is reuse. Any large enterprise today scrub 50 to 60% of the target candidate pool every 6 months. So you are basically interviewing or assessing the same candidate every 6 months. And every time the candidate comes into your funnel, you're actually making them go through the same interview process or same assessment process again and again and again. That's primarily because you're not able to capture this data effectively, and that's one of the biggest bottlenecks in hiring today. And in Instahiring, and especially because everything is remote, and you have videos, video interviews, you have assessments which are remotely done. Every piece of information is collected, and you can effectively reuse all of this so that you can short circuit the entire hiring process. So essentially, if you reimagine the hiring process, the current process which we discuss is like this, where you have resumes coming in, you have the recruiter need to pick up the resumes and manually call each and every candidate, so the candidates wait for that. Many of them drop off in that period itself because they are already getting another job, or they were probably a passive job seeker and they don't have any more patience to be part of that workflow. And once they get screened, you invite them for an assessment process, which is typically done in an assessment center today. You require them to come to your office, even if the test is already computer based. So that means they need to take a day's leave, they need to travel all the way to your office, and which actually is a significant delay in the process and also a constraint for many of the candidates. And once they get shortlisted, then you have a recruiter trying to reach out to the candidate, match his schedule with the hiring manager, and schedule an interview. And this again goes back and forth, takes a lot of time, adds further delay to the process. And at each of these stages, you can see that candidates are dropping off, but you don't have any data collected on the tool or on your applicant rank system because most of this data is offline. And the applicant rank system is not really enabled to collect all of this data on one single platform. So that's essentially the current process. But if you reimagine this process in the Instahiring way, so essentially we are talking about a resume coming in, let's say a candidate who is coming to a career portal or career web page. You can actually have a chat board, do the same kind of interaction which a recruiter would have in the first screening call, asking him about how many years experience they have, what is the budget, what is the timing, are they willing to relocate. All of those questions can be handled with the help of a bot itself, and the bot can obviously, it is 24/7 and it can interact with unlimited number of candidates theoretically at any given point of time. And once you qualify a particular resume, you can directly invite them to a remote assessment process where the candidate today from their smartphone can go through a written assessment where their identity is verified automatically with the help of technologies like face recognition, and also ensured that they're remotely proctored so that they are not taking any external help while they're going through the assessment process. And all of this data comes and sits in the central database. And once they qualify for the assessment process, you can actually have a digital interview where the candidate and the hiring manager, the interview can be automatically scheduled. There are multiple ways of automated scheduling available today, which essentially will allow you to schedule the interview, and at the scheduled time, the hiring manager and the candidate, they talk to each other from the location of their preference, rather than waiting for somebody to take a day's leave and travel to the employer location. So this essentially is the Instahiring process, and one of the critical pieces here again is that you are not losing any data because everything happens on a platform. You are collecting all of this data at every given point of time, from interview recordings to assessment reports and panel feedback and all of that, so that when there is a new requirement which has a similar skill set requirement, you can actually reuse many of this. You can pull out an interview recording and share that directly with the hiring manager, and if the hiring manager is happy with about the interview, then you can actually cut down that part of the process from the entire workflow and ensure that you can fast track the entire process. And it really requires a unique product suite for doing Instahiring. Rajiv, who is our Chief Product Officer, along with some of our customers and partners, are going to walk you through some of these capabilities later in the day. But one of the things which I think you will continuously hear us talking about is data, because collecting data is very critical to fast track your process, and collecting all kind of data which is today is not being collected. And there is a lot more potential to leverage data for even better ways of hiring, and that's where combining hiring metrics with metrics like on-job performance can actually help you to build what we call a predictive talent supply chain, which we believe is going to be the future even beyond Instahiring. But that's probably a topic of discussion for a later day. So one of the things which I'm sure all of you are thinking is, okay, you already leverage some technology in bits and pieces of your process. So how do you really know where you stand today, and how can you move towards being fully Instahire ready? And that's where we've come up with an Instahiring index. I think Matt is going to speak more about how to use Instahiring index to evaluate your process and also ensure that you move towards being Instahire ready and shrink your time to hire from months to days or even hours. So that's something interesting which we have for you today. So apart from, so Talquest has been our flagship conference for the last 2 years, but we are continuously invested in doing community building. This year or last year we started a new format of event where now we are having events in different cities. So we did 3 flash events. The format is called Flash last year across 3 Indian cities, and this year we are also starting in US and Singapore. That's something very exciting for us. One of the other community building activity which we are launching, and Rajiv will speak more about this, is the HR Trailblazer Program. So we don't want the learning to stop at Talquest, so we are going to continuously engage with you and also recognize some of the trailblazers within the Instahiring space. People have done something unique within their organization, and that becomes a continuous engagement channel for Talview with each of you. We were fortunate to have some very exciting set of customers to be onboarded in 2018. We look forward to working very closely with each of these customers and making all of them successful in their journey towards better hiring processes. When it comes to technology, and this is probably, I think, one of the things which we have been continuously investing in and speaking about, whether it's uptimes or whether it's SLAs or whether other aspects of technology, we are continuously investing in that. Another key thing is compliance. We are GDPR compliant both from a candidate perspective and also from being a data processor perspective, and we are able to also consult with client organizations today to enable them to become GDPR compliant as a data handler. We are also investing in new servers across the globe. So whether you have operations in China or Russia, today we have servers which will allow you to keep the data of candidates in those locations within those countries. When it comes to our product roadmap, I think Instahiring is our product North Star. So throughout this year, we are going to continuously update you on how the product roadmap will evolve and take it closer to the final vision of Instahiring. And Rajiv and team, they are available today here. So if you have any questions on any of the aspects of the product roadmap, feel free to reach out to them. And one of the other things which we did last year, we launched MIS reports within Talview, which is now giving you a lot of insights about metrics which are otherwise not tracked, like time to hire or cost of hire, or even understanding which are the steps which are bottlenecks within your entire hiring process. So those MIS reports are available. But what we also realized is most of you have very unique problems apart from the standard problems which we are able to address with their standard MIS report. So what we have done is we have built an in-house data analytics team who also comes with the functional expertise so that they can actually consult with you and work with you to build solutions to unique problems which you have within your organization. So Sandeep, who leads the team, is going to talk about this later today. And all of this, we are obviously not doing it alone. We've always been partnering with Microsoft and IKM since inception of our journey, but we have also have some very new exciting partners being onboarded. People who have built core capabilities within their verticals, which are very exciting for us. And while we are doing all this, I think one thing which hasn't changed across so many years is why we exist and the why of Talview. And I think for most of us who are currently associated with the recruitment function, the biggest fulfillment we derive out of this is the fact that we are enabling professionals to have better career success by matching them with the right job. And that continues to be the why of Talview, and everything which we do will stay true to that. And this is my last slide and probably the last thought which I want to leave with most of you. So how many of you agree that talent acquisition is not a cost function but it's a value function? How many of you do agree? Yeah, I think all of us agree. But in conversations with many of my recruitment colleagues, often find that especially when there are conversations which are happening with the board or the CEO, the conversation is always around cost. How can recruitment reduce my cost this year? And which is kind of counterintuitive, because if the organization expect you to deliver better hiring process, better quality of hires, better candidate experience, you can't really do that by reduced cost. Because, for example, your marketing colleagues, we all know, if the organization expect them to deliver higher volume of leads and better quality of leads, obviously he's going to ask for more budget. But many times recruitment is not able to have that kind of conversation with the board or the CEO. And one of the reason is that unlike other functions, recruitment today is less equipped with data on some of these aspects, whether it's candidate experience or quality of hire and all of that. So one of our mission this year is also to equip each and every one of you who are collaborating with Talview with more data, so that you are able to deal with your board, with your CEO, with more in terms of data and more than in terms of perception. Yeah, so with that, I think I would like to welcome all of you once again to Talquest and welcome you to the journey of Instahiring. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let's give a huge round of applause to the man who leads from the front, Mr. Sanjoe.